obviously nothing will happen. Without that fateful day, the day the Cretaceous ended, that our little ancestors miraculously survived. The asteroid that year ended up losing a lot of life. But for humans, it's just the beginning. The diagnosis seems to have been arranged. The throne changed hands as soon as the dinosaur lay down. But to get to today, humans have been through a lot of challenges. Row transparency 10.000.005. But have you ever wondered, are we completely different today or not? Have we become a superior species compared to other primates? It's hard to believe, but I have to say, human beings are actually still partly apes. We are going to continue with that weird topic in the next episode of this series. And now is Tomorrow Life Vietnamese. Hi, and see you in the next video. Have a nice day with your family. War finally exploded after a series of tense developments, increased continuously for weeks. Like every other war, it started with a few minor casualties. And it lasted until 4 years later, and it's become a mass slaughter. But this is not a war. As we often know, it's not made by humans, it's made by chimpanzees. More precisely, chimpanzees, in Tanzania's Gom National Park. Kasekela used to be a large chimpanzee community, living peacefully for many years. But up to 1907 BA, some individuals have separated from the community and formed another chimpanzee community. It's known as Kahama. They're planning to invade the old community. But the plot failed 7 times and ended in blood, when the Kasekela completely killed 6 individuals. Domination of Kahama, and defend the territory with integrity. This event startled scientists to realize that our cousins are close to us. They also know how to operate war in a complex society where there's a clear hierarchy. Observing the conflict, there's been a lot of violent behavior. Cunning tricks have appeared, just to achieve the ultimate goal. Chimpanzees don't act instinctively, they are aware of their own thoughts. You might say that war is so calculated. Exceptional performance is now available compared to what humans know about chimpanzees. With that, many other discoveries related to biological evolution or the development of the brain over time. It's asking people a question. Do we still have some kind of monkey? And there's one other very important thing to keep in mind. That's in the first episode. We have agreed that this series develops based on the theory of evolution. This world is trapped in time. Every organism since it was the simplest cell, until it's evolved into the most complex intelligent organism, they're all trapped in forms that have never changed. Since the dawn of creativity. This idea is unbelievable. From a young age we were taught that Earth is a dynamic planet, that every second, every minute, everything changes. Even with humans, we have a whole range of technological capabilities. You can't escape that domination. Within 1 million years, the world has seen its rise and fall of at least 7 different species, and only Homo sapiens is the ultimate winner. However, before the 19th century, the vast majority of people believe that they're living in an immutable world. Life is always sustainable. It has not been moved since its formation. But when the revolution changed, our understanding of life on Earth takes place. Everything has changed. In the tropics of Malaysia, this man is immersed in research to find the answer to the problem that the whole world hasn't even thought about. He developed a theory related to species grow over time, under the influence of environmental pressure for many years. He calls that process of impact and change its natural selection. The great mind we are talking about, it's not Charles Darwin. It's Alfred Russel Wallace. An independent person formed the concept of human evolution. With Darwin, it's thanks to Wallace that we know that people are always an important part in the animal world from primitive times to the present day. in the book The Descent of Man 1800. Darwin made an even more Monetized argument. He declared that humans and many other primates don't just advance, it comes from the same ancestor. It's also similar in many physical characteristics. Go to thought. But whether this is accurate or not, most people in the 1870s, I've never seen a large primate before, it's not human. But with people traveling around the world like Darwin, it's not that hard to recognize similarities. Perhaps the most obvious similarity, it's a facial expression of emotion. That's right, use your face to express your emotions. It sounds simple. But not every species can do that. Primates in general, including humans of the group of organisms, you can use the face to show you how you're feeling. You just need to look at a group of primates certain in a short time to notice the kinds of expressions they use every day. Happy, joy, anger, surprise, and pain all appear. Moving parts of their face reflects the high adaptability with living in complex social groups, where communication is key. Human beings are nothing new to the world. It's just separate and developed from distant ancestors. Scientifically, humans are still primates. And so we are relatively similar to them. Wallace and Darwin, I've never fully answered questions before about this perception, despite many breakthroughs in knowledge of human origin, until the 20th century, when it's officially recognized by the scientific community. They've just started looking for the missing link. It's an extinct creature. It's somewhere between our ancestors and today's humans. Such a creature is thought to be found in 6 places in Europe, with a brain bigger than a monkey's, but retain the characteristics about adapting to life in trees. In 1900 April 2nd, Raymond Dart, an Australian surgeon who's working at the university, I noticed a special package coming from the quarry. The interior contains some obscure fossil remains, wrapped very carefully. Specimen belongs to Australopithecus africanus. Many scientists have always held this view, that a bigger brain is the first step in making us different. The brain would have evolved the earliest, compared to any other characteristics. However, the fossil has been rediscovered. It shows a creature with a small brain, but they have teeth that look like smart people, and it's got an upright posture. Even the larynx simulations from the sample showed. Maybe this creature can talk. Even with a small size. The brain also exhibits behavioral complexity, and consciousness is not inferior, so it gives high reliability to the idea. The process of cognitive evolution. It's been a long process. It's been filtering for millions of years. Many people quickly start thinking about the specimen like a missing piece of chain. Let's try for evolution. And although we now know that belief is in the wrong place, this discovery still plays a role important in exploring the evolutionary journey. Evolution is a long road that seems to have no end. A lot of people have always wondered how far we've come on this road. How much of our consciousness remains of the ancient African grasslands? Dawn in the rainforest. The light through the fog soon shone. The yellow feathers haven't woken up yet. When compared to most other primates, it's easy to understand that Saomuric is considered unique. This long-tailed, belly-bellied primate have a very peaceful life, harmonious and very rarely violent. Even sex partners. This species is also shared in the community. It's hard to understand in a state where food is always scarce. In a world where most primates, they all want to monopolize resources. The behavior of Muriqi is curious. An American anthropologist. I've been studying this strange creature from the 1980s and quickly realized that Muric society, it's like human society in many ways. Here, females are equal to males. They are all considered important members of the community, even when old and weak lose fertility. It's almost impossible to find signs of violence and compete in groups to approach a partner. In this sense, Meriki monkeys are even milder than humans. Their seemingly complex social lives, it shows higher cognitive ability, but their brains aren't superior compared to other apes in the same region. This once again reinforces that the big brain is not an important feature, most important in evolution. You might be surprised at the anatomical similarities. Behavior among primates other than humans. Through the examples just now, it's about us and them having a common ancestor. The word is even more emphasized. However, our path and the primates, this is completely different. They're not less evolved species than we are. But while we evolve, they're always evolving. We didn't evolve from chimpanzees or gorillas. The scientists have calculated the great apes of the New World, separated from our common ancestor 40 million and 5 years ago. These evolutionary cousins is slowly telling us about the history of behavior, and their true abilities are not to be underestimated. After Rho 10.000.005 we may not be developed, superior as we still think, in addition to an abnormally large brain relative to the body. However, there is an undeniable truth. The animal's brain is larger than its own. Body size concerns. It's more likely that the animal will be smarter. Please emphasize that many possibilities, not all. Size is not the deciding factor. The complex structures inside, he plays the most important role. This truth has given Holmes. Scientific research is a challenging question. How does the human brain? It's become such a special organ. What drives primates to develop sets of? The brain is much more complex than the animal world. And whether our behavior and our thinking today, are they affected by this process or not? Our first primates. It doesn't seem to have a big brain. In fact, many researchers have compared them with species of lemurs alive today. They still say it belongs to one of the ancient primates, the oldest still in existence. They will provide. There's a lot of interesting insights about evolution. The beginning of the brain. Primates. The brains of the smaller lemur primates. And simply compared to the great primates. But they're still showing their superiority. Compared to ancient ancestral species, it shows that they're always changing. Even though all species' brains have evolved over time, but only humans can succeed. It's amazing. The difference may not come from the brain itself, as we still think. That as of 25,000.005 ago, we have been favored. Get ready for something bigger. Hidden in lush rainforests from the very a long time ago are some of the typical primates of the monkey family. They live in trees, move back and forth easily as professionals perfectly adapted to life. Some populations, the earliest known flourishing in the rainforests, Africa in the Miocene. They have brains larger than the species that existed at earlier times. But that's not the biggest connection between them, and we are today. These species possess superior behavioral abilities compared to fairies. And more than that, they show many human-like qualities. It's amazing. These characteristics, it seems to suggest the beginning of a journey, extraordinary evolution, prepare to take place. Over millions of years, these first monkeys started to develop brains, larger and more complex sets. Dependence on the main food source, it could be fruit, has served as an important motivating condition. Because the fruit is usually dispersed and available seasonally, animals have to remember and move to specific locations at different specific times. It doesn't just stop there. When the brain is more complete, that's when the climate started to change. Chain of environmental change. To make the forests lush, there are fewer pastures instead. Savan stretches where Africa is wild. Some of the species that follow the decline in forest cover inside, and then evolved into normal apes, we know today. But some have chosen to take a different path. The changing environment, setting the stage for the evolution of a viable species in all the forests, and the yellow SA grassland environment. You look at this skull. It's only 167.7 cubic meters of gasoline, whereas the skull of Australopithecus lived in East Africa. 3 times that number. But earlier than Australopithecus, and more with our ancestors. The difference between chimpanzees, Sahelanthropus from 7 million years ago. It's a perfect example about the relationship between the environment and the brain. Each savanna grassland habitat can bring back evolutionary advantage in adapting to the landscape that's changing every day. It's a strange thing that the seahorse's brain has a slow whole area structure that's human-like. That property gives us the basis for reasoning that they could be bipedal animals. More specific speculation, Sahelanthropus, possibly even the earliest species in the branches of humanity in the evolutionary tree. It's very important to stand up straight with 2 legs. It's because of this that the first 2 limbs of the primate are liberated. Comfortable control of objects with higher dexterity. Set the stage for the next species. Know how to use tools. Homo sapiens took advantage of that perfectly. To keep up with the brain's thinking. Homo sapiens also gradually reached the peak of brain optimization than any other creature on Earth. With skillful hands, this heralds the birth of complex behaviors, in terms of perception, including abstract thinking about language and problem-solving skills. When we look into the eyes of a chimpanzee, we see a mirror image of ourselves. The sound of a journey. It started millions of years ago. And yet, the underestimation of cousins, goods in the process of evolution, it's a huge mistake. More research find out more, the more you see that we are not as superior or as different as we think we are. Imagine you're wandering around the edge of the forest. Next to the golden SA grasslands of Africa, a chimpanzee are crossing the branches above your head. One of its hands grips the tree's branches on the high to keep its balance. The other hand holds a sharp wind. He's a hunter. In the distance, he's got a group of associates, companion under the deadly silence. It's not that hard to know what's going to happen. When he stabs a fatal spear and kills his prey. This extraordinary moment is so precise, makes you choke. Your somewhat rushed breath seems to go unnoticed. Because in a few seconds a small, bloody feather is pulled out. The whole scene is filled with sounds like this. The hunter's companions immediately let out a cry of excitement and tied up. Your friends and family do the same. In their society, a successful hunt will have the whole community celebrating. Because everyone has a part. The hunter gripped his prey in his hands. Other members are willing to divide the profits. Product. But right now, there's a war going on inside him. Instinctively told him this was his own booty. He needs to protect it with everything he has. But reason now points out. He has a strong relationship with individuals standing around. In the past, they also shared their spoils with you. If you do the opposite this time, they can isolate you, and there will be no sharing later. After a struggle, he allows each individual in the community to take a share. Booty. He's also given a special part for the most senior members of the group. Of course, resources are limited. There is only one piece of meat left for me. He protected it so much, don't let anyone get a chance to touch it. In human society, sharing is not uncommon. But for chimpanzees, it's about sharing food, especially food of such value. It's not meant to be generous or noble. It's about political calculation. Hunters learn hunting techniques from their own communities. Until one day, he'll want to form a community of his own. Meat is the foundation to build a close relationship, then with individuals in the community to seek recognition. The last example is a classic example of intelligence. Machiavellian, proposed for the first time by a Dutch researcher who specializes in psychology, primitives and ethics, Frans Delbo in 1982. This idea is obvious. Even seemingly altruistic actions in chimpanzee society may also be motivated by personal reasons and the need for domination. This theory goes even further to argue that the need for greater dominance actually spurred a dramatic increase in brain size. And with bigger brains, more skillful hands than many other species. It's not surprising that chimpanzees use both of these advantages into making and using tools. Year 207. The anthropologists have directly observed a situation, specifically in a group of chimpanzees native to the SA Van region, southeastern Senegal, with temperatures regularly reaching 40 degrees Celsius, with an area that lasts up to 7 months a year. It's a challenging environment to survive in. But most of this open grassland, it is where the ancestors are. Our species has evolved in the past. That's why SAO is so important to the research. Tintin. They don't just live in the same environment as the nest. First, they're also the most skilled tool users in the world. Natural. For these chimpanzees, they can use many different kinds of tools for many different purposes. They use heavy percussion tools to smash nuts, carrying a hard shell that uses sticks to get insects. Use a toothpick to clean your teeth. And what makes them so special is that they're known as one of the pants body primate, rare non-human. Regularly search for food with tools, like the anthropomorphic example we just talked about. 2011, a group of researchers from the University of Lublin and Iowa State University reported that wild chimpanzees from Bandafasi, Senegal, know how to use tools to dig food underground. Before that, animals weren't people. I know how to use tools to harvest food underground. These are bears from Serra National Park, Dakapivara, Brazil. So far, scientists have found that wild chimpanzees know how to use tools to dig food underground. It's very important because this behavior was once considered unique. For apes, a species is given was to help humans and our ancient ancestors, separate from other primates. In new research, scientists have studied how to use it and tool selection for chimpanzees in captivity to understand more about the behavior of digging for food with assistive tools. How it can be developed. They're tracking a flock of 10 chimpanzees. He lives on an island belonging to the Christian San Anawi Zoo. 8 of them were born in captivity. And before that, none of them. Carry out 6 practice digging food. The team dug 5 small holes and put the whole fruit in each hole. Originally leave the holes open to let the chimpanzees to the place containing, and then fill each hole. Then they provide the tools to dig for food. 9 out of 10 chimpanzees know how to successfully dig fruit buried in the ground at least once. Even some of the chimps, they are not provided the tools. They've also been digging with the tools that they found. The team also observed the chimps' seminal reuse of tools, specific, as well as choosing longer tools for formal learning behaviors. Eat. And most surprising, the study authors also looked at the chimpanzees take turns digging a hole and even share fruit after digging. Thanks to advances in science, we know that chimpanzees and dwarf chimpanzees are our closest evolutionary relative. So it sounds extremely reasonable to assume that many behaviors are present in humans can also be found in chimpanzees and dwarf chimpanzees, pioneering research in the last half-century to reveal some aspects of chimpanzee behavior. It's not known until now. According to scientists, through a long-term field study of chimpanzee communities, the years are mature 60. We know our cousins. We can do more than we've ever known before. In the chimpanzee community, in addition to making as well as using tools, they also have a rich and complex social life. As the most extroverted people, they form a long-term, loyal friendship, political alliances, and a close relationship with family. You won't find it hard to spot chimpanzees spend hours grooming, touching each other and taking care of the less fortunate weak individuals. And more than that, they're capable of complex communication with a rich vocabulary of gestures. The sound is amazingly characteristic that we've only recently deciphered. So in conclusion, we get a picture of chimpanzees like those who know how to use superfluous tools. You can share the spoils with your fellow humans. I have a political agenda in mind when performing the 6th act. Do you still think they're inferior to humans? Or in a different perspective, are we still carrying something? It's like these cousins. All of the amazing things that happened. It's just a small chapter in the annals of chimpanzee society. Since we started doing field research, different military units. But it's not just that. In the process of research, the scientists had stumbled upon a special event. Events that show strong humanity. Within the community of the species, it's not human at all. The fact that reflects the humanity that I'm talking about. The war lasted for 4 years. Between two chimpanzee communities. GOM Chimpanzee War, from the year 1974 to the year 1978. It's a conflict by force. Between two chimpanzees in GOM National Park, Tanzania. The conflicting parties are Kasekela and Kahama. There is territory, the northern and southern parts of the park. These two chimpanzees used to live together in a colony, but in the year 1974, researchers are observing this community. Jane Goodall. We've noticed that there's a division of the chimpanzees' habitat, one group in the north and the other in the south. The computer analysis of Google's records, then it was revealed that there's been a social rift between the two colonies. From the beginning, 1907. Fashion. The Kahama live in the south. There are 6 adult males, with 3 children and their children. Whereas the Kasekelas are more numerous, with 12 adult females and their children, and 8 adult males. The first sign of conflict occurs on January 7th, a 9-7, when there are 6 chimpanzees on one side. Male of Kasekela attack and kill Godi, a young male chimpanzee of Kahama, eating on the tree. This is the first time people have seen the birds. This guy kills his own kind deliberately. For the next 4 years, all 6 adult males of Kahama was killed by Kasekela males. Among the offspring of Kahama, 1 was killed, 2 are missing, and you've been beaten and kidnapped by Kasekela's monkey. He then won the territory that used to be Kahama. But this booty didn't last long. When the Kahama retreated from the new territory of the Kasekela, we now face a war for territory from another group of chimpanzees called Kalande. Threatened by the overwhelming power and number of members of the Kalande flock, along with some of the sideshows along the territory Kasekela flock, they quickly ceded many of their new territories. The outbreak of the war surprised Google. Since then, she has always watched chimpanzees. Although it's not like human expression, there's a nicer way of behaving. Along with the observations in the year 1975, when a female has a higher rank in the flock, eating the flesh of a fellow infant. Bloody developments in the war. Gumby has been exposed for the first time in front of the darkface in the Planet 6 of chimpanzees. She was deeply disturbed by this discovery. In her memoir she wrote, "For many years, I've struggled to find a compromise with this new knowledge. Every time I wake up at night, terrible images kept coming through my mind. Satan, the name of one of the chimpanzees. Hands down the sniff's chin. To drink the blood that's gushing out from a deep wound on its face. Zarudov is inherently benign. Stand up straight, to throw a heavy stone at the gory's decaying body. Romeo tore a goat out of Figan's thigh. Continuous punching into the injured body, and the trembling of Goliath, one of its childhood heroes. When Goodall report back on the events of the GOM War, many people didn't believe her reports. It's about a natural battle between chimpanzees. At that time, the scientific model of human and animal behavior, they almost never fit together. Some scientists have accused she's an anthropomorphist. Others think that her presence and her chimpanzee raising experiments has spawned violent conflict for a peaceful society of nature. However, subsequent studies used fewer methods. Intervention proves that society of chimpanzees in nature, there are wars for power. The full-scale violent social behavior of two crystalline populations helps us better understand our own nature and the evolutionary impacts that have shaped our cognitive behavior. Just like humans, we are not special after all. What Wallace for Darwin showed us. From over a century ago, humans used to share roots with primates. 7 million years ago, we've separated ourselves from parts of our relatives, including tail tongue. And despite the distinct evolutionary pathways, then the same brain as our ancestors, it retains many important parts of it. General characteristics of the anatomy of the mind. cognitive behavior 6. And in the end, the sinister brutality has always been there.